People and government. The principles of American government. A state is a place that occupies a specific area and has a government that can make and enforce its own laws. A nation, on the other hand, is a group of people with a shared culture and heritage. This might include things such as language, religion, music, things like that. A nation-state is a country that is made up mostly of people from the same nation. All successful states share several key features. First, the people in those states have the ability to reach consensus or agreement about basic beliefs, things that are important to the state, such as freedom of the press, freedom of religion, the ability to have due process in a court. Second, all successful states have clearly defined borders between themselves and other countries. Third, successful states have sovereignty, the ability of the state to have absolute authority to make and enforce its own laws. And finally, successful states have the institution of government, which maintains the order and stability of society. There are several theories on how states came to be. One theory is called the evolutionary theory, which says the state evolved or developed from the authority of the head of a family. Another theory on the origin of the state is called the force theory. In the force theory, government emerged when everyone in an area was brought under the authority of a single person who directed their efforts to create a safe, secure place to live. Another theory on the origin of the state is called the divine right theory. This is the idea that God or the gods chose a particular individual to rule, and therefore everyone has to listen to them. Finally, we have the social contract theory. This idea was originally proposed by political philosophers such as Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau. It's a theory based on the idea of the social contract, an unspoken agreement between the government and the people. In a social contract, the people promise to obey the government's laws, and the government promises to protect the rights of the people. So the social contract is an agreement between the people and the government. The people promise to obey the laws of the government, and in return the government promises to protect the rights of the people, especially the right to private property. If a person does not follow the laws, they forfeit their right to independence, freedom, possibly money if there is a fine involved. If the government does not protect the people's rights, the people have the right to overthrow the government. Government serves four major purposes. The first is to maintain social order and help people resolve conflicts peacefully. Second, governments provide public services such as roads, law enforcement, and safety regulations. Third, governments provide national security and maintain a military. And finally, governments make major economic decisions. There are two main types of government systems. The first is what's called a unitary system. It's a system in which all the key powers of government are held by a single national or central government. It may give powers to local governments as it sees fit, but those governments only have the powers given to them by the central authority. On the other hand, a federal system is a system in which key powers are shared by a national government and local or state governments. The local and state governments have powers that are clearly defined, as does the national government. The way that governments define powers is through the use of a constitution, a written plan of government. Constitutions serve three specific purposes. First, they establish the ideas and principles of the government. Second, they establish the basic structure and powers of the government. And finally, constitutions provide the supreme law for the country. A constitutional government is any government in which a constitution creates clear limits on the power of the government. This is also called limited government. Most constitutions feature a preamble, a statement of goals and principles at the very beginning of the Constitution. Constitutional law is the practice of studying and interpreting a constitution. Politics is the effort to control or influence the policies and practices of the government. People practice politics to gain benefits from the government and to work together to achieve goals. People will sometimes form special interest groups concerned with a specific topic or issue to attempt to influence the government's policies on that issue. An example of special interest groups would include the NRA, the National Rifle Association, or the NEA, the National Educators Association. Political parties represent groups of people with similar interests and beliefs working together to achieve their goals in the government, based on the idea that it's easier to achieve your goals if you're working with a lot of other people than it is if you're trying to do it by yourself. There are three major types of government. The first type is what we call autocracy, rule by a single individual. There are a couple of basic styles of autocracy. One is totalitarian dictatorship, in which the ideas of a single individual are glorified. Another type of autocracy is monarchy, in which the right to rule is inherited. There are two basic types of monarchies. There is absolute monarchy, where the king or queen has complete and absolute authority over the government and the country. And there is also constitutional monarchy, where the king or queen shares power with an elected legislature and is limited by a constitution. So, Queen Elizabeth II, the Queen of the United Kingdom, is a constitutional monarch who shares power with a group called Parliament. On the other hand, Adolf Hitler was a totalitarian dictator in Germany during World War II. The second type of government is what's called an oligarchy, in which a small group of people rules the country. Oligarchies are often seen in countries ruled by communist political parties, where members of a single political party rule the country. A good example of this would be China, a country ruled by a communist party, but that is technically an oligarchy. The Communist Party rules the country, and it is the only political party allowed in China. The third type of government is democracy, which is ruled by the people. There are two basic styles of democracy. There is direct democracy, where everyone votes on issues. And there is a republic, which is a type of representative democracy, where the people elect representatives to make laws and run the government. Direct democracy got its start in ancient Athens, where all male citizens of a city-state had the right to vote in an assembly and on laws and policies. The ancient Romans developed a republic in which elected representatives voted on policies and laws for the people. Republics work better than direct democracies in large territories, where it's difficult to get everyone together in one place to vote and discuss on issues. All democracies share certain basic characteristics. First, there is the importance of individual liberty. Each individual is allowed to do basically as they please. Second, there is the concept of majority rule, which is that the government will do what the majority of people want them to do. But democracies also protect the rights of the minority, making sure that there is not what is called a tyranny of the majority, where individuals who are not going with what most of the group wants still have protections and still have rights. Third, democracies need free elections, which means that people not only do not have to pay to take part in an election, they are able to vote for whomever they wish. And finally, democracies need competing parties to offer a choice to voters between different groups and different ideas. Democracy requires several things to work efficiently and effectively. First, There need to be active citizen participation in elections and other civic responsibilities such as jury duty. Second, a country needs to have a favorable economy where people have free enterprise, which is the economic freedom to own choices. Third, democracies require an educated population. People need to be literate and be aware of the issues in order to vote, and to vote effectively. Democracies also need a strong civil society of non-government organizations that participate in benefiting society and improving society. And finally, democracies require social consensus, agreement about basic beliefs and values, such as the importance of representative government or the freedom of speech.